Welcome to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. My name is Tim Murray, President and CEO of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. And Chamber Exchange, a TV show, is an opportunity for you, our viewers, to meet some of the business leaders and movers and shakers of Central Massachusetts on issues of economic development, job creation for the region. I want to thank the sponsors that helped to make the show happen, which is Worcester Railers Hockey Club, who are on a win streak as they go on a road trip, and Bank Hometown. I want to thank both of them for the show. Want to welcome in this first segment two individuals who are involved in a great new museum and destination place that tells part of the history of the region. Christopher Robert, who's the founder of the Samuel Slater Experience, and Barbara Van Reed, who's the marketing director at the Samuel Slater Experience. Chris, maybe you could tell us who Samuel Slater was and what the Samuel Slater Experience Museum is all about.
Quick history. In around 1750, the only place that any linen or blankets and that type of product were milled were done in England, and they were done in factories that were run by the government. At that time, the King of England decided that he wanted to keep his monopoly, and therefore he put together a policy that said that if anybody took equipment or knowledge of the mill works outside of England, they were considered a traitor. Later on, in about 1782, Samuel Slater decided to learn the mill business and went to work in a mill with a 7-year apprenticeship. When he finished the apprenticeship, he realized he could never own a mill in England because all of those properties were owned by the king and his families. So he decided he'd come to the United States, but he was also concerned that he would be considered a traitor because he would be going to the United States with knowledge of the mill business. So he basically disguised himself up as a farmhand and sewed his paperwork for his apprenticeship into his coat so that nobody would know it was there. And in 1789, he boarded a ship, took 66 days to come here to the United States, and landed in New York. In New York, he contacted a fellow named Moses Brown. Mr. Brown is known for his family in Brown University at Pawtucket, went to work for them, and he discovered that, well, Mr. Brown was a nice person. He was never going to let Samuel own his own place either. So Samuel, the pure entrepreneur person, decided he would go where he could build his own properties, and that started in Webster, Massachusetts.
And so much of Central Mass and the Blackstone Valley is known as kind of one of the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, and that's a big piece of it. So the town of Webster and the museum, what is the story that you tell at the museum?
Well, first of all, the museums that he originally built for Mr. Brown were in Rhode Island, and the Blackstone Valley River was running out of water, so he had to go someplace where he had a vast source of water. At the time he moved to Webster, it wasn't called Webster, it was part of Oxford, and the large lake there, known as Lake Chumuggagog-Mechuggagamug, had enormous amounts of water.
For those of that can't say that, it's Webster Lake, right?
Webster Lake is what people refer to it as. And in any case, what he did is he raised the level of the lake by 3 feet by putting dams around the lake, and then started building mill buildings in the town, all powered by water. He didn't want to use steam because he had seen what steam did in England. And when you make steam, you do it with coal. Coal generates large amounts of black soot. And so the buildings were all dirty. So he stayed with water power till almost the end before he was willing to do any other kind of power. And Webster provided him with plenty of land, plenty of help. He was also very interested in making sure that when the people worked for him, they stayed as a family. So he built housing for them, which allowed them to be able to have a whole family work for him in different capacities.
And so the museum that you've created, kind of telling the story of Samuel Slater in the Industrial Revolution, which again, we have a big history of in Central Massachusetts, the old National Guard Museum in Ray Street, and people have described this as something you would experience in Disney, interactive, or something you might see at a Smithsonian.
Well, before I built it, I was interested in two things. One is education of children, And I was also interested in the fact that every time I went to a Disney location, I would learn new things about technology that would help teach. I am a believer in the fact that as you watch our young children today play video games and play games on computers, that they all are thinking of learning in a different way than just reading a book. So our goal here is to have an immersive experience. When the children come through, we want them to actually see things, feel things, touch things. The first office he visits is Mr. Slater's office in England, where he learned how to his apprenticeship, and we carry it on through that. We actually have a reproduction of the ship he came in on, and we hope that when the children leave, they don't forget us. So, for example, after you leave the ship and you're in New York on the wharf, you see rats running around.
Yeah, well, New York is known for some of that.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the rehab of the building, significant investment, making a building structurally sound. Chamber was pleased and honored to be able to award you a Silver Hammer Award last year for this
That's correct, yes.
historic renovation. But the ribbon cutting's coming up, a big event. Barbara, do you want to talk about how people can come and see the museum and participate?
Yes, we're officially opening on March 4 with one of those ceremonial events, includes a ribbon cutting. And then we'll be open to the public for the first time that afternoon for a few hours, and then every weekend thereafter. The overall scheme of things is to be open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays to the public. And then on the other days of the week, we are actively recruiting groups, school groups, field trips, seniors, historical societies, visit tours. And as one part, we're also going to be reaching out to businesses and organizations, because we'd like to also make the facility available for special events.
Right.
So we have space. We have a 1,000 square foot room, which is like a classroom. So that helps with the educational part, but also for a meeting part. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we have all the museum is self-guided for the most part, but we have volunteers stationed at specific places in the facility, in the museum, that will direct people if they lost, or if they have some questions. So that helps with school trips, with all visitors.
Right.
We're trying to keep it busy all the time.
Right.
And so we have a huge outreach job to do, but so far everybody that's been through it says, this is great, and I'm going to tell everybody I know about it. So we're hoping people will continue to do that.
Right. And Chris, as we open up the segment, and we just have a little time left, I mean, really, when Samuel Slater's story it's an immigrant story, which so many people and families can relate to in their own family narrative. It's a resilient story. It's an entrepreneur story, and it's a job and economic story. And it's about passing that on to the next generation.
Yeah, I would like to also thank the state for allowing us to have the building. It cost substantial amounts of money to fix it all up, but at one time there was no heat in the building and there was asbestos everywhere, and today we're ready to go. Yeah,
a former National Guard building that's
correct.
Now has been activated and brought to life. If people want to learn more about it, is there a website? How can they engage and get a little bit of intelligence and information so they can prepare for a visit?
Yeah, our website is samuelslaterexperience.org, and when you open it up, you'll see immediately a video trailer that gives you a good idea of all the interactivity and all of the media that you'll see when you're there. And then you can buy tickets there online, or you can come to the box office. But all the information you need, whether you're a visitor or you want to do a trip, a school trip, field trip, you can find it there at samuelslaterexperience.org.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, you're an entrepreneur yourself. Just in a minute we have left, Samuel Slater, what was it that kind of motivated you to do this?
I want to educate the children on the history of the United States, and I want them to go away understanding that we need to improve our educational systems across the whole state. In fact, across the whole United States. And I want to be able to demonstrate that this new technology teaches them faster and better, and it's fun.
Great stuff. Well, Well, looking forward to the ribbon cutting and lots of activity in Webster at the Samuel Slater Experience. So thank you for being with us on this segment of the show. And to you, our viewers, stay with us. We're going to come right back for the next segment of Chamber Exchange.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.
Being associated with the Railers and being a part has been awesome, and it's been a lot of fun.
I think my students' initial reactions is my favorite part. Their eyes get really wide and they're in awe.
And then you have the excitement of hockey and you have that anticipation in the air, you know, the crowd getting into it. It's fun.